because those types of athletes, they get to come into an organization, they have the green light and they can do whatever they want. Where that is very rare to get drafted and be able to control the whole system.
Right. Was CeCe making decisions like...
Yeah.
With it? Yeah.
As she should.
No way.
As she should, but I also think that go ahead.
That's crazy. I didn't realize that. She's just young. I just didn't think that.
But Sophie Cunningham just confirmed what so many fans suspected all season long. The Indiana Fever weren't just struggling on the court, they were divided off it. And the crazy part, she confirmed it without even trying to confirm it. Her recent comments peeled back the curtain on a locker room clash between Caitlin Clark and head coach Stephanie White that ran far deeper than anyone realized. This wasn't about play calls or personalities anymore. This was about control, a fundamental battle over who the Indiana Fever were going to become. But that wasn't the whole story.
Thank you, Sophie Cunningham. I appreciate you for confirming what we all knew anyway. She confirmed it without even trying to confirm it, y'all. Shout out to Sophie Cunningham. She was on her podcast. I'm telling you, she dropped gems. She give us content every time she drop an episode.
It started innocently. Sophie Cunningham sat down for what was supposed to be a lighthearted interview, and within seconds dropped a truth bomb that set the WNBA community on fire. She said, Stephanie White's system wasn't built around Caitlin Clark. Simple sentence, right? But for fans who've watched this team all season, that single line confirmed everything they'd been yelling into the void about.
She confirms that Caitlin Clark had to change things in that system so that she could try to play her game. She jammed Stephanie White all the way up.
Because from the opening tip of the year, something felt off. You had the best passer in college basketball history, a generational playmaker capable of transforming any team, yet she was forced into a rigid old-school system that completely muted her strengths. And now, Sophie Cunningham had just admitted it. Fans didn't need to guess anymore. The friction between player and coach was real.
That is Caitlin Clark not feeling the system that has been in place by Stephanie White. Pretty much we like to call this the Connecticut offense, and really the Connecticut experiment, because that's the hand Caitlin Clark was dealt with going into the 2025 season. Stephanie White was hired to be the new coach. She came over from Connecticut, and she brought some bags with her, like DeWanna Bonner and her whole system that was ran around DeWanna Bonner. Well, she tried to run that same system with Caitlin Clark. And you want to know what happened? Now, I'm not saying this contributed to Caitlin getting hurt, but that whole system did not work.
To understand how this clash formed, you have to go back to those tense mid-season practices. Reports from inside the Fever locker room painted a picture of constant frustration. Clark wanted to push the pace, spread the floor, and use her court vision to open up shooters. White wanted structure, half-court sets, and veteran decision-making. The result? Confusion, miscommunication, and a team that looked like it was pulling in two different directions every single night.
And she got to talking about the Indiana Fever system and Stephanie White and Kelsey Mitchell with Caitlin Clark and how it all meshes together. And long story short, it wasn't meshing together. Caitlin Clark had to forcefully make some changes. She had to.
Players tried to stay professional, but the tension was impossible to hide. During one road trip, sources said Clark left the gym visibly frustrated after another long film session, while veterans like Boston and Mitchell stayed behind with White. It wasn't open conflict, but it was a clear divide. And Sophie Cunningham, she saw it all. Her cryptic words now sound less like random commentary, and more like a quiet confirmation that the Fever's locker room wasn't united behind one vision. Let's be honest, the Fever's system was never designed for Caitlin Clark. When Stephanie White took the job, she wanted discipline, defense, and balance. But then came Caitlin, a player who thrives in chaos, thrives in improvisation, and thrives when given total freedom. Two worlds collided. White's structured sets slowed the game down. Clark's instincts sped it up. By the middle of the season, even casual fans could see it. The Fever were running plays that neutralized their own star.
Stephanie White, you knew you were coming to the Indiana Fever. You should already know the system Caitlin wants to play. Why did she have to make changes to your system to play her game. And we also know that this did not go over so smoothly because we saw Stephanie White taking shots at her on TV.
And Sophie Cunningham, a veteran who's played under multiple coaches, couldn't ignore that mismatch. Her statement wasn't just analysis, it was validation. She was essentially saying, yeah, Clark was boxed in. And for a league desperately trying to market its brightest young star, that's a huge problem. Every story like this has a breaking point, and for the Fever, it came quietly, away from cameras. Insiders say there was a moment right before the All-Star break when tensions reached a boiling point. After another frustrating loss, Clark reportedly challenged the team's shot selection during film review. White pushed back, defending her system and rotations. Voices were raised.
But when you have a generational talent like that, she should have a lot to say of the system.
Nothing physical, nothing outrageous, but a moment that drew a line in the sand. Clark wanted change. White wanted order. From that day on, the power dynamic inside Indiana's locker room shifted. Clark began leaning more on her own instincts in games, freelancing on offense, calling audibles mid-possession. White, meanwhile, doubled down on structure. And through it all, Sophie Cunningham was there, watching both sides unravel.
Here it is at Iowa. No, we didn't. We didn't see Caitlin Clark erupting on assistant coaches, having heated exchanges with Lisa Bluter. We didn't see this. Hell, she didn't even have a heated exchange with Christy Sides last year. I don't know what the hell is going on, but it's looking real spooky. And I'm telling y'all right now, this thing is heating up. Something is coming to a head because Caitlin Clark is now showing publicly she's pissed off. She's publicly showing it. She ain't in character no more. She's sick of it. Watch this.
Now, here's where it gets wild. Despite the obvious tension, the mainstream WNBA media didn't touch the story. No one wanted to admit that one of the league's most marketable teams might be fractured behind the scenes. Instead, they painted everything as growing pains. The usual talking points: new roster, rookie learning curve, chemistry takes time. But Sophie's comment shattered that narrative. It wasn't chemistry. It was conflict. And once she said it out loud, fans began connecting the dots, from Clark's body language in press conferences to the awkward moments on the bench when she and White barely interacted. The silence around the Fever suddenly looked strategic, because if this story broke earlier, the league's carefully built Caitlin Clark-era marketing plan would have been thrown off completely.
We saw Stephanie White play Caitlin Clark at small forward. We saw Caitlin Clark play small forward for an entire game. So don't get it twisted. Sophie is saying, yeah, Caitlin Clark has say-so, da-da-da. Caitlin Clark had to go enforce herself to say, hey, what the hell is going on? I'm not doing all this off-ball stuff. You got me playing small forward. I'm not getting to play my game. I'm about to force some changes to be made.
Here's the truth. Fans were way ahead of everyone on this one. Long before Cunningham's interview, Fever supporters were dissecting every timeout huddle and sideline clip. They noticed the lack of communication, the forced smiles, the frustration on Clark's face when she'd hit an open teammate, and the next play, the ball wouldn't come back to her. Fans could see it, even when analysts pretended not to. So when Sophie spoke, it wasn't new information, it was confirmation. And that's what made it so explosive, because once fans feel validated, they don't forget. For Caitlin, this entire situation is both a curse and a crossroads. She came into the league with unprecedented hype, but also unprecedented scrutiny. Every move she makes becomes a headline. Every frustration gets labeled as drama. Now, with Sophie Cunningham's remarks hanging in the air, Clark faces a choice: adapt to the system that limits her, or demand a system that unleashes her. If she chooses the latter, things could get messy in Indiana, but it could also mark the beginning of the Fever's real transformation. Because let's face it, you don't draft a generational talent to play small. You build the system around her.
But the fact of the matter is, it should not have come down to that. You knew where you were signing. You knew the player that the team was supposed to be built around. You're supposed to have a system in place that caters to her. Matter of fact, you're supposed to build the system with her. Hey, what do you like? What do you want to run here? What do you want to run there? How do you like that? You're supposed to build this thing out with her, not bring your Connecticut system, have her playing small forward for a handful of games, and now she gotta change the system and enforce her power? Come on now.
So why did Sophie say it? Was it an accident, a casual comment that got blown up, or was it intentional? There's a theory circulating that Cunningham's words weren't random at all. She's been vocal about wanting the WNBA to evolve, to embrace the modern game, to play faster, to lean into offense. Her statement about Clark might have been her way of nudging the league or even the Fever toward that evolution. And if that's true, she might have just done Caitlin Clark a massive favor. Because for the first time, the conversation isn't about whether Clark belongs. It's about whether the people around her are capable of maximizing her. Here's what insiders believe could happen next. The Fever front office can't ignore this any longer. The tension between player and coach has been whispered about all season, and now with Sophie's words going viral, it's officially public conversation. Don't be surprised if major changes come before the next season starts, from offensive coordinators to roster adjustments. Because the organization now faces pressure from both fans and the media to show they're adapting around Clark's strengths. If they don't, they risk wasting the most transformative player they've ever drafted. This whole saga highlights something deeper about the WNBA itself. The league is at a crossroads, torn between honoring its history and embracing its future, between the old guard and the new wave. Sophie Cunningham's comment might have sounded small, but it exposed that divide perfectly. She said what many players won't say out loud, that the league needs to evolve to match the talent it now attracts. Because if Caitlin Clark, the most watched rookie in decades, feels boxed in, what message does that send to the next generation? The WNBA can't afford to keep its brightest stars stuck in outdated systems. At the end of the day, Sophie Cunningham didn't start this fire. She just gave it oxygen. Her words forced everyone to face what was already obvious. Something inside the Indiana Fever isn't working. But maybe that's exactly what needed to happen. Maybe a little honesty is what finally pushes the team and the league forward. Because whether you love Caitlin Clark or not, one thing's undeniable: she's changing the WNBA, with or without permission. And now, thanks to Sophie Cunningham, the world finally sees what's been happening behind the curtain. So, what do you think? Was Sophie out of line, or just being honest? Drop your thoughts below. And if you want the truth behind what's really going on in the WNBA, make sure you're subscribed, because this story is only getting started.